My in-laws forced me to sign a ruthless prenup. Then my wife cheated after 20 years of marriage. Her parents went bankrupt, and their contract left her financially ruined. This is the story of how my wife of 20 years cheated and got screwed by the same prenup her parents forced me to sign. Throw away because my kids browse Reddit. Here's what went down. So picture this. 20 years ago, I, 48 male, was dating this girl, Fiona, for 2 years. Head over heels, stupid in love. Think I'm hot because I just got promoted to logistics coordinator at a manufacturing plant, making decent money, driving a Honda that was basically a glorified closet with wheels, living in a studio apartment with a Murphy bed. Her parents complete opposite end of the spectrum. Dad's some finance guy who wears those glasses that cost more than my monthly rent. Mom drives a Mercedes that she replaces every 3 years for safety. They live in one of those neighborhoods where every house looks like it was designed by the same architect who has a serious heart on for columns and circular driveways. First time I meet them, I show up in my best khakis and a button-down from Target. Her dad gives me this handshake that feels like a job interview. "You must be the operations fellow," he says, like I work in a coal mine. "Buddy, I coordinate logistics, not mine diamonds with my bare hands." Dinner was this whole production. Crystal glasses for water like we're dining with the Queen. 3 forks. Who needs 3 forks? Her mom asks me about my 5-year plan and investment portfolio. Lady, my investment portfolio is putting $20 in a savings account and hoping my car doesn't die. But here's where it gets good. About 6 months before I propose, her dad pulls me aside at some family barbecue. He goes, "Son, I want to talk to you about protecting assets." I'm thinking he's going to give me stock tips or something. Nope. Dude whips out this leather portfolio, not a folder, a portfolio, and starts talking about prenuptial agreements like he's selling me a timeshare. "It's just good business," he says. "Nothing personal, just protects everyone involved. When I finally propose, ring financed over 18 months because I'm not an idiot." Her parents invite me over for a conversation. I show up thinking we're going to talk about wedding venues or some wrong again. They've got their attorney there. Their freaking attorney at the kitchen table with a binder. Not a folder, not some papers, a 3-ring binder with tabs and everything. This thing looked like it could launch missiles, the lawyer speaking in that monotone voice lawyers use when they're about to screw you, but want it to sound friendly. "This is just standard protection for both parties," he says, sliding the binder across the table like it's a peace treaty. I flip through this thing, and it's like reading stereo instructions, written by someone who hates fun. Separate property tabbed in blue, waiver of maintenance, red tab, should have been a warning. Infidelity clause, orange tab. Yeah, they really went there. Inheritance protections, green tab. The thing even had a table of contents. Her dad sitting there acting like this is totally normal. Like every engagement comes with its own legal seminar. It's really quite simple. He says, "What's yours stays yours. What's hers stays hers." Clean and easy. The infidelity clause was my favorite part. If either party cheats and it can be proven by preponderance of evidence, fancy lawyers speak for, "Yeah, we're pretty sure you did it." That person forfeits any claim to attorney's fees. Her mom literally says, "Well, if nobody's planning to cheat, it shouldn't matter, right?" With this smile that could freeze hellfire. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Karen. I'm sitting there like, "Are you serious right now?" But out loud, I just go, okay. I guess that makes sense. Then comes the ultimatum delivered by her dad, with all the warmth of a parking ticket. This gets signed before the wedding, or there is no wedding. Straight up hostage negotiation. Sign or the princess stays in the tower. I called my buddy Bill that night, frustrated as hell. "Dude, they want me to sign some contract like I'm buying a house, not marrying Fiona." Bill's response, "Bro, If you're sure you're not going to cheat and you're not after her money, who gives a sign the thing and marry the girl? So I find this lawyer on the cheap. Guy operates out of a strip mall between a nail salon and a Subway. It's aggressive, but not illegal, he tells me. Pretty standard rich people stuff. You comfortable with the terms? I'm thinking, I'm 28. I make decent money. I love this girl, and I'm not planning to cheat or steal from anybody. How hard could it be? Yeah, sure, whatever. Famous last words right there. So, we got married. Beautiful wedding, even though Fiona's parents controlled every detail like they were planning the invasion of Normandy. I wanted a DJ. They hired a string quartet. I wanted an open bar. They went with signature cocktails that nobody could pronounce. But whatever, I married the girl, not the wedding, and for the first few years, life was actually pretty great. We moved into this little starter house in the suburbs, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in the 80s when everyone thought beige was the height of sophistication. But it had a garage, a yard, and neighbors who minded their own business. Perfect. Then the kids started coming. Claire first, then Nate 2 years later, then Luke 2 years after that, then Julia. 4 kids in 8 years because apparently we didn't own a TV or birth control or self-control. My wife wanted to stay home with them, and it made sense. So I became the workhorse. Getting up at 5:30, hitting the gym before work because it was the only hour of the day that belonged to me. Promotions came steady. Logistics coordinator, supply chain analyst, logistics supervisor, supply chain manager. Each step up meant more responsibility, more hours, more but also more money. I was that guy who actually read the employee handbook, maxed out my 401k contribution, learned every system inside and out. Not because I loved work, but because I understood math. More hours equals more money equals a better life for the family. The house became our project. Spent weekends at Home Depot, learning how to install ceiling fans and fix leaky faucets because hiring contractors for every little thing is how you stay broke. YouTube University taught me more about home maintenance than my dad ever did. The weekend night routine was clockwork. Come home, help with homework, eat dinner, bath time for whoever was small enough to need it, read bedtime stories, collapse on the couch. Weekends were soccer games, birthday parties, grocery runs, and whatever home improvement project I'd convinced myself I could finish in one afternoon. The mortgage refinancing was beautiful, though. Rates dropped. We had equity. Credit score was solid. Went from a 30-year to a 15-year. Payment barely changed. That move probably saved us $100,000 over the life of the loan. Fiona thought I was a genius. Her parents were tolerable during this phase. They'd visit, bring expensive gifts the kids didn't need, make comments about the neighborhood being charming in that tone. That meant anything but. But they seemed to approve of how we were handling things. Her dad even complimented my lawn once. High praise from a guy who pays someone else to cut his grass. The prenup became this weird family joke. "Thank God you two signed that thing," her mom would say at Christmas dinner. "Keeps everything simple." Her dad would nod like it was his greatest achievement. Right up there with inventing fire. I'd just smile and change the subject. Fiona was good at the mom thing. I'll give her credit. She ran that house like a military operation. She knew every kid's teacher, every friend's parent, every schedule conflict 3 months in advance. I handled the money, the maintenance, the planning. She handled the logistics, the social stuff, the emotional heavy lifting. It worked. We paid off the house 3 years ago, 12 years ahead of the original 30-year schedule. Right on track with the 15-year refi through every bonus, every tax refund, every spare dollar at that mortgage like it owed us money. The kids were growing up good. The house was ours. Work was stable. Money was steady. Normal problems. Normal solutions. I thought we'd figured it out. Then her parents' money started disappearing and everything went sideways. Around year 15 of our marriage, I started noticing changes in her parents. Subtle at first, they stopped talking about their latest vacation or the new car. Then her dad started asking me about my 401k strategy and whether I thought gold was a smart hedge against inflation. Bad year in the markets became their go-to explanation for everything. Their country club membership lapsed temporarily. The vacation house in the mountains got sold to simplify things. The Mercedes got traded for a Honda. They still tried to keep up appearances, but you could see the cracks. Her dad, who used to talk about money like he was Warren Buffett's smarter brother, suddenly wanted to discuss conservative investment strategies and protecting principal. Translation: dude was scared shitless and had no idea what he was doing. Turns out playing rich guy is easier when you actually have money. Turns out they'd gone all in on some investment scheme that sounded too good to be true because it was too good to be true. Something about emerging markets and guaranteed returns. When it went tits up, it took most of their liquid assets with it. Then came the lawsuits. Multiple lawsuits. Her dad was on both sides of some nasty legal, suing the guys who sold him the bad investments while getting sued by other investors who thought he should have known better. Legal fees ate what the bad investments didn't. These weren't strip mall lawyers charging $300 for document review. These were white shoe firms billing $800 an hour to argue about who was responsible for what. Her parents were hemorrhaging money, fighting over money they'd already lost. My wife took it hard. She'd grown up thinking her parents were financially bulletproof, and now they were shopping at Target instead of Nordstrom. Not exactly a tragedy, but for someone who'd never seen her parents worry about money, it was like watching Superman get his ass kicked. She started spending more time helping her parents, which really meant sitting around their house talking about the good old days and complaining about lawyers. I got it, family is family. But it also meant she was home less, engaged less, present less. The kids were getting older and more independent. Claire was in college, Nate was in high school, Luke was in middle school, and Julia was in high school too. The intense hands-on parenting phase was winding down, and my wife was restless. That's when the finding herself phase started. First, it was a book club that met during the day, then yoga classes, then a pottery class, then some volunteer thing at the art museum. All perfectly normal stuff, except she was treating it like a full-time job. I'd come home from work, and she'd be rushing out to some meeting or class or event. Don't wait up became her standard goodbye. I'd handle dinner with the kids, help with homework, do bedtime routine, then sit on the couch wondering when the hell my wife was coming home. When I asked about it, she'd get defensive. I spent 15 years raising your children and running your house. Now I want to do something for me, like I'd been holding her prisoner or something. Fair enough, I thought everyone deserves hobbies, but hobbies don't usually involve staying out until midnight 3 nights a week. The argument started slow. Little passive-aggressive comments about appreciation and effort. She'd make dinner and then act like she'd performed surgery. I'd fix the garbage disposal and get a lecture about how I never noticed the things she did around the house. "You take me for granted" was her favorite line. Meanwhile, I'm working 50 hours a week, handling all the finances, maintaining the house, and still showing up for every important kid event. But apparently, I wasn't emotionally present enough. I tried the date night thing, hired babysitters, made reservations, bought flowers. But it felt forced, like we were both performing instead of connecting. She'd spend half the dinner texting or talking about whatever drama was happening in her art museum volunteer group. The sex dried up around this time, too. It went from regular to occasional to special occasions only. When I'd bring it up, she'd say she was tired or stressed or not feeling appreciated. Classic catch-22. Can't feel close because we're not having sex. Can't have sex because we don't feel close. I own my part in this. I coasted on autopilot for too long. Work, house, kids, repeat. I figured if I kept handling my responsibilities, everything else would sort itself out. Wrong. But here's what pisses me off. I was still showing up, still working, still paying bills, still fixing, still being a dad. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't checked out either. I was doing what I thought marriage was supposed to be. Partnership, teamwork, building something together. She was doing something else. I just didn't know what yet. The really screwed up part. Her parents started warming up to me during this period. They'd always tolerated me, but now they were actually friendly, asking about my work, complimenting the house, talking about how proud they were of the family we'd built. Her dad even said something like, "You've really provided stability for our daughter." That's not easy in today's world. Coming from a guy who used to act like I was lucky to breathe the same air as his daughter, it was weird. You know how in movies, the guy always finds out about the affair in some dramatic way, walking in on them, seeing them at a restaurant, finding a love letter? Well, real life is way more boring. I found out because her phone was buzzing on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs getting ready for another one of her yoga nights. Just a notification lighting up the screen while I was cleaning up after dinner. The preview showed a name I didn't recognize and a photo I'm not going to describe. But let's just say it wasn't from her freaking yoga instructor. I didn't immediately confront her. I didn't scream or throw or make a scene. I did what any good operations manager would do. I started documenting. First stop was our cell phone account online. We're on a family plan, so I have access to usage reports. 3 months of records painted a pretty clear picture. Tons of texts and calls to a number I didn't recognize, mostly during work hours. The pattern was obvious once you knew what to look for. Then I checked our credit card statements. Amazing what you miss when you're not looking for it. Business lunches at restaurants I'd never heard of. Hotel charges downtown when she was supposedly at her book club. Little purchases at hotel gift shops, coffee, snacks, stuff you buy when you're killing time between room service and round 2. Find My iPhone was the real gold mine. She'd never turned off location sharing because why would she? We're married, right? No secrets. Except her yoga studio apparently moved to the Marriott downtown, and her book club was meeting at some dude's apartment complex in the afternoons. I printed everything, built a timeline that would make a prosecutor jealous. Dates, times, locations, expenditures. The whole thing was laid out in a folder. The guy turned out to be some divorced dude she met through her volunteer work. Recently separated, kids every other weekend, the whole midlife crisis package. Found his social media pretty easily, posting pictures of his motorcycle and inspirational quotes about living authentically. Real deep thinker. This one probably has no ragrits tattooed somewhere. 3 weeks of surveillance confirmed what I already knew. Tuesday and Thursday, yoga, Monday book club, and Friday girls' night were all. She had a whole second life I knew nothing about. All those late nights, all those mysterious new interests, all those arguments about not feeling appreciated. I'd been trying to fix a marriage that was already over, bringing flowers to a funeral. I called a lawyer the next morning. I walked in with my folder of evidence and a copy of our prenup. She read through everything while I sat there. "How long have you suspected?" she asked. "About a month of knowing for sure, maybe 6 months of wondering. Good documentation. The prenup is interesting. Waiver of maintenance after the youngest turns 18. And this infidelity clause about attorney's fees. That's not standard language. Her parents' lawyer wrote it." She grinned. "Well, their lawyer just became your best friend. With your youngest at 17 and this level of evidence, you're in an extremely strong position. The question is whether you want to settle or litigate. What's the difference? Settlement is faster and cheaper. Litigation is slower and more expensive. But given this prenup and your evidence, you'd probably win everything you're entitled to, plus attorney's fees from her side." I thought about it for about 10 seconds. How fast can we serve papers? 2 weeks. If you want to do this right, do it right. I drove home that afternoon and looked at my house differently. 20 years of mortgage payments, weekend projects, and normal family life. The place where we'd raised our kids, celebrated birthdays, argued about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Now it felt like a museum of a life that was already over. But I wasn't sad about it. I was pissed. Not just about the cheating, about the lying, the manipulation, the way she'd made me feel like I was the problem when she was the one with a secret boyfriend. About the years of my life I wasted trying to fix something she'd already broken. You know what really got me? She was still coming home every night acting like nothing had changed, still complaining about the dishes, still asking about my day, still playing the devoted wife and mother. Either she was a sociopath or she thought I was a complete, probably both. The kids had no idea, which was exactly how it should be. They were dealing with their own school, friends, college applications, normal teenager problems. The last thing they needed was to know their mom was having an affair with some divorced loser who rides a motorcycle to volunteer meetings. I kept everything normal on the surface, still went to Nate's wrestling matches, still helped Luke with his college essays, still made pancakes on Saturday mornings. But inside, I was counting down the days until the sheriff would show up at our door with a manila envelope that would change everything. 2 weeks felt like 2 years, but eventually the day came. I was at work when it happened. Specifically, I was in a meeting about Q1 supplier performance metrics when my phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Service completed at 2:47 p.m. I finished the meeting, wrapped up a few things, and drove home with my stomach in knots because I knew the next few hours were going to be a show of epic proportions. I pulled into the driveway around 5:30. Her car was there, which meant she'd gotten served and was sitting inside, probably calling every divorce lawyer in the phone book. The kids wouldn't be home for another hour. Perfect timing. I walked in the front door, and she was sitting at the kitchen table with a paper spread out in front of her like she was solving a jigsaw puzzle. Her eyes were red, makeup smeared, tissues scattered around. For a second, I almost felt bad. Then I remembered the hotel charges and the feeling passed. "Really?" she said, looking up at me. "This is how you want to handle things? Papers served by a sheriff like I'm some kind of criminal? Have you lost your damn mind? It's how these things work. Nothing personal. Nothing personal. 20 years of marriage and 4 kids is nothing personal. Do you even hear yourself?" I set my keys on the counter and looked at her. This woman I'd loved, trusted, built a life with. Mother of my children. Now just another problem to be managed. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. I told her up to you. That's when the waterworks really started. Crying, apologizing, begging for counseling, promising it was just a mistake, swearing it didn't mean anything. The whole performance, if I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, it might have been convincing. "I know about Jason," I said calmly. "I know about everything." Her face went white, busted. No more lies, no more gaslighting, no more pretending I was the crazy one for suspecting something was wrong. No, it's not what you think. Stop. Just stop. I held up my hand. "All communication goes through the attorneys now. You can't be serious. We have children together. We can work this out. The children will be fine. We're both going to be fine, but we're not working anything out. This is over. You can't throw everything away over one mistake. Watch me. You crossed the line. Now deal with the consequences. 20 years. Doesn't that count for? Exactly, Fiona. 20 years weren't enough to teach you loyalty." I went upstairs, changed clothes, came back down, and started making dinner like nothing had happened. She sat at the table crying and making phone calls to her parents, her sister, probably a few lawyers. The kids came home one by one. Julia first, bouncing in from soccer practice, dirty and happy. Then Nate, arguing with someone on his phone about something that happened at school. Finally, Luke, tired from his shift at the restaurant where he worked part-time. Normal family chaos, someone asking what's for dinner, someone else complaining about homework. For a few minutes, it felt like any other Tuesday night, except their mum was sitting at the kitchen table looking like someone had died, and I was stirring pasta sauce while mentally calculating how to divide 20 years of accumulated stuff into 2 separate lives. I waited until after dinner, then I asked them all to sit down at the table. "Your mum and I are separating," I said. "No build-up, no sugarcoating. It's not because of anything you did, and it doesn't change how much we love you, but we won't be living together anymore." Silence. Julia started crying immediately. She was 17, but still the baby of the family. Still believed her parents were invincible. Nate got angry first. "What the hell, Dad? Out of nowhere." "It's not out of nowhere. Your mom and I have been having problems for a while." "So fix them," Luke said. He'd been quiet until then, but now he was looking at me like I'd just announced I was joining the circus. "Work it out. That's what married people do." "Some problems can't be fixed," I told them. "This is one of them. More tears, more questions, more anger." I stuck to the script. "Problems we can't fix. Love you all. Nothing changes for you. We'll work out the details." I promised I'd still be at all their games, concerts, whatever they needed. What I didn't tell them was why. The cheating, the lies, the evidence sitting in my lawyer's office, that was adult business. And they were still kids, even the ones technically old enough to vote. Fiona just sat there crying. Didn't say a word. Didn't try to defend herself or blame me or promise the kids we'd work things out. Maybe she finally understood the situation was unfixable. Over the next few days, she tried everything, crying, begging, bargaining, threatening. She called my parents, my brother, my best friend, anyone she thought might convince me to reconsider. She suggested counseling about 50 times. She promised to end things with Jason. None of it mattered. I'd made my decision with my head, not my heart. The hard part was already over, had been over for months, maybe years. Now it was just logistics. I moved into the guest bedroom and started living like a tenant in my own house. Separate schedules, separate meals, separate everything. The kids adjusted faster than I expected. Teenagers are resilient as hell when they need to be. But then she started using them as messengers. "Tell Dad we should try counseling. Tell Dad he's being stubborn. Tell Dad he's hurting the family." Classic manipulation designed to put me in an impossible position. If I responded to the kids, I was dragging them into adult problems. If I didn't respond, I looked like an who didn't care about his family. She knew exactly what she was doing. That's when I went from separation to full divorce mode. When someone tries to weaponize your kids against you, the gloves come off. Julia's 18th birthday was supposed to be simple. She'd specifically asked for low-key because she was stressed about LSAT and didn't want a big production. I should have known better. In my family, simple and no drama are mutually exclusive concepts. First hour went fine. We managed to have normal conversations about Julia's classes, Nate's wrestling season, Luke's plans for summer break. Even my in-laws behaved themselves, though her dad kept giving me these weird looks. Claire was there with her boyfriend. Nice enough guy, but he has that nervous energy of someone who knows he's walked into a family crisis and isn't sure which direction the grenades are coming from. Smart kid, probably the only one reading the room correctly. We ordered pizza from Julia's favorite place. Julia seemed happy, which was the whole point. She's been the most affected by all this, probably because she's the youngest and still lives at home. Then my wife decided to give a toast. She stood up with her Diet Coke, getting that look in her eyes that meant she was about to say something that would make everyone uncomfortable. I tried to catch her eye. Shake my head. Anything to signal, "Don't freaking do this here." But she was already in full performance mode. "I just want to say how wonderful it is to have the whole family together for such an important day." She starts looking around the table like she's accepting an award. Family is the most important thing, and I hope we can always find ways to stay close, no matter what challenges we face. Dead silence. Everyone knew what she was really saying. Nate put his fork down and looked at her like she just started speaking German. Luke shifted in his chair. Julia's face went red. "Mom," Nate said quietly, "please don't do this. Not tonight." But Claire couldn't leave it alone. "What's wrong with wanting the family to stay together?" she asked, jumping to her mom's defense like she always does. "She's just saying she loves us." That's when Julia, sweet, quiet Julia, who never causes trouble, put her pizza slice down and looked directly at her older sister. "Claire, stop. You don't actually want the family to stay whole. You just don't want anyone to find out you've been helping Mom cover up her affair." The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. My in-laws looked like they'd been hit with a stun gun. Luke's mouth fell open. Nate's eyes went wide. Even the boyfriend looked uncomfortable, and he barely knew anyone. My wife tried to say something, but nothing came out. Just opened and closed her mouth like a fish. Claire started crying and stammering denials, but Julia wasn't done. "I'm not stupid," she continued. "I've known for months. The lies about where Mom was going, the deleted texts, the way you'd cover for her when Dad asked questions. I've been watching this family fall apart while everyone pretended nothing was wrong, and I'm tired of it." Then she got up from the table and went to her room. The room exploded. Claire crying, Fiona trying to explain, my in-laws demanding to know what the hell was going on, Luke asking if someone could please tell him what was happening. Nate just sat there looking like someone had told him Santa Claus was real, but also a serial killer. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and addressed the room like I was dismissing a particularly unproductive staff meeting. "Party's over. Everyone needs to leave now." Took me about 3 minutes to clear the house. My in-laws left without saying goodbye. Claire left still crying, dragging her confused boyfriend behind her. Nate went to his room, probably to text his friends and try to figure out what the just happened. Fiona tried to stay and talk, but I told her to go stay at her parents' house for the night. We deal with the fallout tomorrow through our lawyers. I found Julia in her room, sitting on her bed, looking exhausted. "I'm sorry your birthday got ruined," I told her. "It's not ruined," she said. "I'm just tired of everyone pretending. It feels better to have it all out in the open." Smart kid. "How long have you known?" I asked. "Since last summer. I came home early from soccer camp and saw Mom's car at some guy's apartment complex. When I asked her about it later, she lied. Then I started paying attention to the other lies. Why didn't you tell me?" She shrugged. What was I supposed to say? "Hey, Dad, I think Mom's cheating on you. You guys needed to figure it out yourselves." I hugged her and told her she was the best thing her mom and I ever did together, which was true. Then I went downstairs, thinking about how an 18-year-old had just shown more maturity than anyone else in her family. Nate found me in the kitchen around midnight. "How long have you known about Mom cheating?" he asked. "A few months, and Claire knew." Apparently, he thought about it for a minute. "That's up, Dad." "Language," I said automatically, then realized how ridiculous that was given the circumstances. But yeah, it's pretty up. That was the last time I spoke to Claire for 6 months. Not as punishment, not to be cruel, but because I couldn't trust her anymore. When someone chooses to participate in deception that destroys their family, they lose access to you. Simple as that. Some people called it harsh. I called it having boundaries. So here we are 8 months later. Discovery is wrapped up. Settlement negotiations are going nowhere. And my lawyer is practically salivating every time she looks at our case file. The irony is beautiful. Her parents spent God knows how much money on that prenup to protect their wealth from a gold-digging son-in-law. Then they lost their wealth. Then their daughter cheated. And now that same prenup is screwing her over. Here's how it's all shaking out. Maintenance alimony waived completely. The prenup specifically says no spousal support after the youngest child turns 18. Julia just turned 18, so that window slammed shut. Attorney's fees. Thanks to the infidelity clause and my folder of evidence, she gets to pay her own legal bills while I get mine covered. My lawyer estimates she's already spent $30,000 on attorneys. I've spent about $8,000, which I'll get back. The house, this is where it gets really good. We own it outright, no mortgage, no liens, just a paid-off house worth about $400,000. The prenup says we split equity minus any post-separation carrying costs. I've been paying all the utilities, insurance, property taxes, and maintenance since we separated. That's about $3,000 per month in carrying costs that I can offset against her share of the equity. 8 months' time, $3,000 equals $24,000 in offsets and counting. She wants to keep the house, but she can't afford to buy me out. No income, no credit. Parents are broke. The bank isn't exactly lining up to give a 48-year-old woman with no work history a $200,000 mortgage. Retirement accounts. My 401k from before marriage stays mine completely. The growth during marriage gets split by formula, but since I've been maxing contributions for 20 years, most of the value is premarital or post-separation. She's looking at maybe $40,000 from retirement accounts. Everything else. Cars, furniture, personal stuff. We each keep what we brought to the marriage, plus whatever we can agree on. Not much to fight about there. The math is simple. She's looking at maybe $200,000 from the house sale, minus her half of the offsets. $40,000 from retirement accounts, her car, and whatever furniture she bought. Total net worth walking away, roughly $220,000. Not bad for someone who hasn't worked in 20 years, but not enough to maintain the lifestyle she's gotten used to. Definitely not enough to keep playing wine club volunteer while dating guys with motorcycles. My side, $200,000 from the house, keep my retirement money, my car, and no ongoing financial obligations to someone who decided to blow up our marriage. Plus, I get to stay in the workforce making good money while she figures out what 48-year-old women with liberal arts degrees do for employment. Her parents were absolutely losing there. They keep trying to get involved, suggesting we work something out or think about the children. Her dad actually had the balls to call me and suggest I was being unnecessarily harsh given our long family relationship. Dude, you spent 20 years treating me like hired help. We're not exactly blood brothers. I told him the prenup was his idea, the terms were his lawyer's work, and I was just letting their contract do what contracts do. He hung up on me. Fiona has moved in with her parents, which has to be a special kind of hell for everyone involved. 3 broke people sharing a house, blaming each other for their current situation. Her parents mad at her for cheating, her mad at them for the prenup, everyone mad at me for having the audacity to enforce it. Claire's still trying to play peacemaker, sending me texts about family forgiveness, and everyone makes mistakes. I don't respond. When this is all over, maybe we'll have coffee and I'll listen to her. But right now, she's still Team Mom, and I'm not interested in being managed by a 22-year-old who helped cover up an affair. The other 3 kids are doing fine. Nate's wrestling season is going great. Luke got into his first-choice college, and Julia made the honor roll again. They've all adjusted to the new normal better than the adults have. They get it. We're headed to trial. Her lawyer keeps pushing settlement offers that ignore the prenup terms. My lawyer keeps reminding them that contracts mean what they say. Unless she accepts reality soon, we'll let a judge sort it out. I'm not worried about the court. Judges see this stuff every day. We have a clear contract, overwhelming evidence of infidelity, and a paper trail that could choke a horse. As I'm writing this final update, I just got a text from my lawyer. My ex-wife's attorney called to discuss a realistic settlement framework that acknowledges the prenup terms. Translation: they finally read the contract and realized they're screwed. But it was too late. I was done negotiating with people who'd spent months trying to rewrite reality. We went to trial. The judge took one look at the prenup, one look at my evidence folder, and one look at Fiona's lawyer trying to argue that a 4-month affair wasn't really infidelity, and you could see her making up her mind in real time. My lawyer laid out the evidence like she was presenting a PowerPoint to executives. Cell phone records, credit card statements, location data, hotel receipts, hundreds of pages of documentation. Fiona's side tried the usual unfair contract, changed circumstances. Think of the children. Her parents took the stand, crying about how they never meant for the prenup to be this harsh, and it was supposed to be more of a deterrent. Then they called Jason as a witness. Dude showed up looking like he'd rather be getting a root canal. Under oath, he basically confirmed everything. The timeline, the hotels, the whole thing. Her lawyer asked if he pressured her into the affair. Jason actually laughed and said she was the one who pursued him. Real romantic stuff. When Fiona testified, she tried the moment of weakness defense, cried on cue, talked about feeling unappreciated, but when my lawyer started asking about the lies, all the specific lies to me and the kids, she fell apart. Had to admit she involved Claire and covering up her trips to Jason's apartment. The judge didn't take long to decide. Came back from recess and basically said the prenup was clear, the evidence was overwhelming, and contracts mean what they say. Prenup enforced in full. Oh, and thanks to the infidelity clause, Fiona gets to pay both sides attorney fees, about $45,000 total. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. House sold, assets divided according to the prenup. Everything finalized just like the contract said. Fiona walked away with about $180,000 from the house after all the offsets I'd been racking up. Maybe $38,000 from retirement accounts, her car, and whatever furniture she wanted. Then got hit with the $45,000 legal bill that wiped out a big chunk of her settlement. I kept $220,000 from the house, all my retirement money, my car, and zero ongoing obligations to someone who decided to trade 20 years of marriage for hotel room meetups. But here's where it gets really good. 2 weeks after the trial, Jason dumped her. Turns out banging a married woman is way more exciting when there's actual forbidden fruit involved. Once she was just another broke divorce with financial problems, and poetry guy suddenly lost interest. Fiona started working retail at a department store, making $12 an hour, living in her childhood bedroom. Her parents had to sell their house to help pay her legal bills, but they owed more than it was worth. Ended up taking a loan against what little equity they had left just to cover the attorney fees. The kids are doing fine. Julia's crushing college. Nate made varsity wrestling. Luke's got his career mapped out. They see their mum when they want to, but they're not interested in pretending everything's normal when it's clearly not. Claire finally stopped trying to play family counselor after about 6 months of me not responding to her. We should all forgive each other texts. Some bridges you burn, some bridges burn themselves. So that's it, Reddit. 21 years ago, I signed a contract I thought would never matter. Turns out it was the best legal document I ever put my name on. Her parents' greedy prenup totally screwed her over. Life is good.